So now moving further on the SAT, we would attempt things like compare point of view questions. These on certain websites are called the cross text connection questions. The cross text connection questions, cross text connection. Okay. Essentially, what are these? So the cross-text connection questions will present two short texts, right? So text 1 and text 2. We have to identify the point of view with which author of text 1 has written a certain text, and we have to identify the point of view of the author of text 2. Both of these texts will be on the same subjects. Same subject, so it will cover the same subject, right? So cross text connection will also always point on the point of view, so we can read this with particular aspect in mind, and they will cover the same subject, right? So we are expected to find out if there is a difference or agreement, if there is a difference or agreement in the point of view of text 1, author of text 1 and text 2. Invariably, you will find that questions which bring out differences are more than questions which basically look into agreements. And now, what is the point of view? Obviously, point of view is basically the purpose or basic idea with which the author of text 1 or text 2 has written a particular paragraph. So, the most common type of question is called the response. So something like this: what would the author of text 2 say about a part of text 1 or vice versa, or about the whole of text 1? 90% of such questions are in which the authors would disagree. Only 10% of the times there is an agreement question, but generally these agreement questions are pretty weird and vague. I mean, it'll have a topic which is probably not covered in all the three options, and the fourth option, which will be absolutely vague, would stand as the correct option. So we will attempt some of these, and then we will try and see how these work. So let's take example number 1. Historians studying the pre-Inca Peru have looked into ceramic vessels to understand daily life amongst the Moshe people. These mold-made structures present plants, animals, human faces in precise ways. Vessels representing human faces are so detailed that scholars have interpreted facial markings to represent scars and other skin irregularities. Some historians have even used these objects to identify potential skin diseases that may have afflicted people at that time. So this is text 1. Primarily looks into two things. One, some kind of mold-made sculptures. This is looking at sculptures which would depict plants, animals, and human faces. And then the rest of the stuff says vessels, right? Not pots, but then vessels representing human faces, and they are detailed and they would have skin irregularities, and people are trying to make out whether that kind of dermatological problems would have affected people at that point in time. That is the gist of the text 1. Now let's look at text 2. Art historian and archaeologist Lisa Trevor has argued that the interpretation of the Moshe portrait vessels, right? We are specifically talking about vessels now, okay, are hyper-realistic portrayals of the indefinable people and inadvertently disregard the creativity of the object's creators. So basically, text 1 says that these are realistic. They show the problems that people might have in terms of derma, in terms of their skin at that point in time. And author 2 says that probably they are more creative. They never had such problems, but then they were creative in doing that. Moshe's ceramic vessels, Trevor argues, are artworks in which sculptors could free their imagination using realistic objects and people around them as inspiration to explore abstract concepts. So these concepts are abstract. Here it says that more or less these are realistic, and probably people might have been afflicted by such problems at that point in time. Now let's look at the options and try and find out which ones we could immediately disregard. As I've already said, that 90% of these questions would be disagreement questions, and this one is also a disagreement question, as you can easily see. So let's look at some things that we might have which are probably agreement or which are absolutely vague, right? So either absolutely vague or agreements is what we are going to cancel out first. So let's look at the first one. Markings on description of human faces are not necessarily intended to portray particular details about physical appearance of individuals. So, what would Lisa Trevor, that is the author of text 2, most likely say about the interpretation of text 1? Quite likely that she's saying the same thing, that it are not necessarily intended to portray particular details about the physical appearance of individuals. These are basically creative. So, could be that A is an answer. Let's look at B, C, and D, whether we are able to eliminate them or not. Some vessels may have been damaged during the excavation, thus provide little insight to the Moshekal. This has got nothing to do with the point of view of Lisa Trevor and the point of view of text 1. So I'm quite sure that this can be eliminated immediately. The depictions of human faces are significantly more realistic than the depiction of plants and other animals are. Though it has not been mentioned very explicitly on the text, but then yeah, probably this is true with the text, but then that has got nothing to do with the comparing of points of view of Lisa Trevor and the first one. So though this is correct in terms of probably correct in terms of factual value, but then this is not our answer for sure. It is likely that some depiction of human faces with extensive marking are intended to portray the same historical individual. I don't know, this is very vague. We have got nothing of this sort. We have got no information, absolutely no information of this kind of thing on the text, either of the texts. So obviously we will have to rule out D as well, and probably, and in fact, the answer to this one is an A. Let's do another one for convenience sake. Despite its beautiful prose, The Guns of August, Barbara Tuchman's 1962 analysis of the start of World War I, has certain weaknesses as a work of history. Fine. So beautiful prose, but then not really something that depicts history correctly. It fails to address the events in Eastern Europe just before the outbreak of the hostilities, thereby giving the impression that Germany was the war's principal instigator. Great. So basically, it doesn't account for events in Eastern Europe and portrays Germany as the principal instigator of World War I. Had Tuchman consulted secondary works available to her by scholars such as Luigi Albertini, she would not have neglected the influence of events in Eastern Europe on Germany's action. Great. So this is text 1. Now let's move to text 2. Barbara Tuchman's Guns of August is an engrossing, if dated, introduction of World War I. Tuchman's analysis of primary documents is laudable. Okay, so again, this disagrees because it says that the Tuchman's analysis of primary documents is laudable. So you laud that, you basically can congratulate her. This one says that it didn't take into account the factual things that people like Luigi Albertini might have written. But her main thesis that European powers committed themselves to a catastrophic outcome by refusing to deviate from military plans developed her prior conflict of implausibly reductive. Great, fine. So basically, again, there is a discrepancy or discrimination, or there is a difference of opinion in the author of text 1 and text 2. Which choice best describes the difference in how text 1 and text 2 view Barbara Tuchman's Guns of August? Okay, great. Let's look at A. It says the author of text 1 believes that the scope of Tuchman's research led her to an incorrect interpretation. Yeah, looks like text one does say that it's incorrect interpretation because she did not take into consideration the literature that was available as resources to her. While the author of text two believes that Tuckman's central argument is overly simplistic. Oh, is there an evidence of that sort? But a main, okay, so let's look at this one. Though text 2 says that this is laudable, she has made a great effort in reading the documents, but her main thesis that Europeans committed themselves to a catastrophic outcome, refusing to deviate from planes developed prior to the conflict, is implausibly reductive. Yes. So probably this is a very simplistic view. That is what he is trying to say. Yes. So probably A could be a possible answer to our question. Let's read through B, C, and D. The author of text 1 argues that Tuckman should have relied more on the work of other historians, while the author of text 2 implies that Tuckman's most interesting claims result from her original research. Not really. I don't think that B is a good answer. The author of text 1 asserts that the writing style of Guns and August makes it worthwhile to read despite any perceived deficiency in Tuckman's research, while the author 2 focuses extensively on the weakness of Tuckman's interpretation of events. So this part is definitely incorrect. So hence this renders C as incorrect. And the author of text 1 claims that Tuckman would agree that World War I was largely due to the events of Eastern Europe. So again, this part is incorrect, as you can see, because text 1 clearly says that she had disregarded the situation in Eastern Europe and considered that the principal instigator was Germany. So we can rule out D as well, B as well, and hence the correct answer would be an A. So now let's look at an atypical example wherein we have got an agreement. Painter Thomas Fall is most renowned for his paintings that depict mythological heroes. Indeed, while he has also produced pictures of regular mortals, Fall's groundbreaking genius is best captured by works that bring to life epic legends and battles sung by Homer and Virgil. Cool. So it says that he's renowned for his paintings that depict mythological figures, and though he has done some work on mortals, his groundbreaking work as a genius is captured by works that bring epics to bring to life epics. So that's how it is. In art history classes, little attention is paid to Fall's work like Lunch in the Fields and A Woodworker, even though they reflect the artist's virtuosity in a most faithful manner. Of Fall's subject matters, demigods of superhuman stature and feats naturally capture the most of public's imagination, yet it is in the rendering of the most mundane task with a divine touch that Fall's talent truly shines, demonstrating his central calling of bringing light to the overshadowed. Great. Now, in this one, really there is no disagreement between text 2 and text 1. Or the only thing that out here it says is that in history classes, little attention, not a lot of attention is paid to Fall's work. Though his works are very good, the rest of the stuff says that. So there is not really any kind of disagreement. Based on the text, both authors would most likely agree to which statement. Now, this is an agreement question, an atypical one, as we said, right? Okay. So, as I said, that these questions are sometimes very vague. As for example, one of the answers could be that, Thomas Fall actually was a painter. Yeah, so both would agree to that kind of a thing. So let's read through the answers and try and see. So let's look at our answer choices. Mythical figures have a storied tradition of art painting. Oh, I don't think that we have anything of this sort on the text. Fall's works possess a degree of diversity in subjects depicted. Yeah, probably text 1 says that, and text 2 also talks about a lot of diversity. Could be a possible answer. Let's look at C. Woodworker is false, most iconic masterpiece, nothing of that sort, whether it is the most iconic. And anyway, whenever we have got things like most iconic, extreme words, right, superlatives, we generally have to root it out. False paintings of mundane life overshadow his other paintings, nothing of that sort. So the only answer that we are left with is B. So stay tuned. The next section will be on questions based on inferences.